Okay, some different methods of home canning. Number one, we're going to talk about water bath canning, or also known as the boiling method. And so this method is used when we're canning high acid foods. And we're going to be, it's really just submerging the jars in water. And when that water comes to a rolling boil, typically, depending on where you live, will reach the temperature Fahrenheit of 212 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, now, so those of us that live in higher elevations, your water may boil at a lower temperature and we will have to make some adjustments, okay? But a lot of us live in areas where our water will boil at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And what happens is those jars are submerged in water. They will boil for a certain amount of time, depending on the recipe. Every recipe is different. Might be 5 minutes, might be 20 minutes, okay? And then again, they are removed and they cool, and then a seal is formed. Okay, so this is for high acid foods. Now, this is just two examples of some water bath canners. I want you to look very closely and recognize that these are just pots. Okay, they're pots with lids on it. That's all they are. And I say that to say a lot of us already have pots like this, a big pot, right? Stock pot. If you have a lid that goes on your stock pot, then you can home can. As long as it's going to be big enough for your jars to be
We
submerged,
do.
you may
You
not
know, I
need to
mean,
go out and buy a specific, you know, water bath canner per se. Okay. Now you might be saying, but what about that little rack thing I see? So that rack is used to maneuver your jars in and out of the water, but it's not necessary. It also helps prevent your jars from sitting on the very bottom of the canner. Um, but it's not necessary. You could use something like if you had a pie rack that would fit in there, or just a cloth, maybe a couple pot holders that you could put in the bottom there. The whole idea is really for your jars not to touch the bottom. All right, second method is called steam canning. So this method is also used when we are canning high acid food. Now, if you look in this picture, the first picture on the left, the jars are not submerged in water. It's just a little, a few inches of water in the bottom of the basin. And what happens here is it's heat. It's boiling water and heat. And it has this huge lid that goes on top there. And as that heat and steam builds up inside, the temperature also reaches 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is going to be hot enough to kill off those enzymes and microorganisms that would cause your high acid foods to spoil. Okay. Um, I This method can be beneficial because it's using less water. All right. And so it kind of expedites the process a bit because you don't have to wait as long for the water to come to a boil. You're not using as much water. And so it could make the canning process a little bit faster. What's going on here? This is just an example of what that looks like up close. All right. And then third is the pressure canner. This method is used when we're canning low acid food. So the two methods before, those were both for high acid foods. This one is going to be for low acid foods. You're going to need to use a pressure canner. And so for the pressure canning method, um, the food is, the temperature gets, first of all, the temperature gets much hotter inside. So we're talking about from 240 to 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this temperature is necessary for low acid foods to kill off the bacteria that can build up on low acid foods. Now, you may say, I do have like a pressure cooker. Can I just use that? No, you do need to use a actual pressure canner. Now, your pressure canner can be used for pressure cooking, okay? But your pressure cooker cannot be used for pressure canning. I almost forgot what I was saying. Okay. So yes, again, this is for your low acid foods. And again, we don't submerge the water. Excuse me, we don't submerge our jars in this method either. It's just going to be a few inches of water, depending on the manufacturer or the brand that you're using. And pressure and heat builds up inside. And that's how those temperatures get so high. These are just three examples of a pressure canner. They come in a variety of sizes and styles. As far as which one you should get, it really has to do with your desire, and your budget, because they can run from about I think about as low as $80 up to Lord, I seen one close to $900, like this one on the right here. Um, and that's because these some of these can get really big and they can hold quite a few jars inside. They all get the same job done. So I call it the Cadillac because it still can get me from point A to B. It's a Cadillac, but it's a car. Okay. So really it's which one you choose to purchase.